There is a city in Nigeria where a billionaire's mansion and a floating slum sit so close together you could shout across the water between them. Lagos State was never supposed to be this powerful, never planned to be this big, never designed to carry this much weight. A city that the federal government tried to replace 40 years ago and failed. And here is the thing, that city is not the capital of Nigeria. It does not have the widest roads, the most orderly districts, or the cleanest streets. It does not have a master plan or a government that built it from scratch. What it has is something no other Nigerian city has ever been able to manufacture, copy, or replace, while Lagos is the opposite of every Nigerian city. Let me ask you a simple question. If Lagos State disappeared tomorrow, what would happen to Nigeria? Not a rhetorical question, a real one, because the answer tells you everything. Lagos generates between 35 and 60% of Nigeria's entire GDP, depending on which metric you use and which exchange rate is applied. Finance Minister Wale Edun confirmed the floor at the Eco Revenue Plus Summit, quote, "The GDP of Lagos State is at least 35% of the GDP of Nigeria." Governor Sanwo-Olu has put the ceiling higher, saying it could be as much as 60%. Either number is staggering for a single state in a country of 36 states. And it does not stop there. Lagos handles 70% of Nigeria's total cargo flights. It accounts for 80% of the country's foreign trade flows. It holds 65% of Nigeria's commercial activity and more than 50% of its non-oil industrial capacity. Every major bank in Nigeria has its headquarters in Lagos State. The Nigerian Stock Exchange is here. The biggest seaport, the busiest airport, the largest market in sub-Saharan Africa, all here. On its own, Lagos is Africa's second largest city economy by purchasing power parity, with a GDP of $259.75 billion recorded in 2023 according to the Lagos Economic Development Update. That puts it ahead of countries, not cities, countries. Ghana's entire national GDP sits around $72 billion. Cote d'Ivoire's GDP around $78 billion. Lagos, as a single state and city, outgrows both of them without breaking a sweat. Now, compare that to Abuja. Abuja was deliberately designed and built by the federal government from 1976 specifically to replace Lagos as Nigeria's capital. Wide roads, zoned districts, a master plan drawn up by international architects. A city created from scratch with government money and government will. And in 2024, the FCT, Federal Capital Territory, generated 282 billion naira in internally generated revenue. That is real money, respectable money. Lagos generates 1.3 trillion naira in the same year from the same economy. That is not a gap. That is a completely different conversation. And here is the thing about Abuja that nobody wants to admit. Its economy runs on the federal government, federal allocations, government contracts, civil service salaries, ministerial spendings. The moment the federal budget tightens, Abuja feels it. Remove the government from Abuja and you have a beautiful, well-planned city with very little underneath it. Remove the government from Lagos and the market opens at 6 a.m. anyway. That difference between a city built by government and a city that built itself is the foundation of everything else this video is going to show you. Because the economy is only the beginning. Here is a question that sounds simple but tricky. Where does Nigerian culture come from? Not where it gets celebrated, streamed, or sold. Where does it actually come from? Where are the studios, the film sets, the fashion houses, the record labels, the stages where it's made? Lagos. Almost all of it Lagos State. Let's start with the music. Because Afrobeat is not just a genre anymore, it is a global movement, a billion-dollar industry, and Nigeria's most powerful cultural exports after oil. And it did not come from Abuja or Kano or Port Harcourt. It came from the streets of Surulere, the clubs of Victoria Island, the recording studios of Lekki and Ikeja. If you disagree with me, let me know what you think in the comment section. Fela Kuti built the foundation here in the 1970s fusing African rhythm with jazz and funk into something the world had never heard before. Decades later, Wizkid, Burna Boy, Davido, Tems, and Ira Star took what Lagos started and carried it to Grammy stages, sold out arenas in London and New York, and collaborations with Beyoncé, Drake, and Ed Sheeran. Spotify royalties paid to Nigerian artists more than doubled between 2023 and 2024, reaching over 58 billion naira, approximately 36 to 38 million US dollars, according to data cited in the Creative Brief Africa. The number of Nigerian artists earning at least 10 million naira annually tripled since 2022. Afrobeat is now reaching fans in over 180 countries. All of that started here in Lagos. Then there is Nollywood, the world's second largest film industry by output, producing approximately 2,500 films every single year, generating over 600 million US dollars annually and employing hundreds of thousands of Nigerians across production, distribution, marketing, and everything in between. Films like Blood Vessels topped global Netflix charts with nearly 9 million hours streamed in a single week. Ijobon entered Netflix's global top 10 non-English films. The world is watching Nigerian stories, and those stories are being written, produced, and filmed overwhelmingly in Lagos. Tourism now accounts for 10% of Lagos State's economy, driven almost entirely by the creative sector. Dirty December, the annual convergence of concerts, events, fashion shows, and cultural celebrations that turns Lagos into Africa's party capital every year, contributed over $71.6 million to Lagos State revenue in 2024 alone. People fly from London, Houston, Toronto, and Accra specifically for it. That is not just a culture, that is an economy. And what about the fashion? Lagos Fashion Week sits on the calendar of global buyers. Nigerian designers are closing deals with luxury houses, appearing on Paris runways and shaping trends from streetwear to haute couture. In October 2025, Lagos hosted the E1 All-Electric Powerboat Championship on 5 Cowrie Creek, placing the city alongside Monaco, Venice, and Jeddah as a global sporting event destination. The Lagos State Commissioner for Tourism described it as a breakthrough that elevated Lagos's position as a hub for sports tourism and blue economy. Now, here is the Abuja dynamic that nobody states publicly enough. The entertainers, the designers, the musicians, the filmmakers, they build their name in Lagos. Then they perform in Abuja for the government crowd that can afford the tickets. The creative infrastructure, the studios, the labels, the agencies, the film sets, the fashion incubators, it's in Lagos. Abuja imports the finished products, Lagos manufactures it. That is not a criticism of Abuja, it is simply the truth of how these two cities relate to each other. And the city that produces has never needed the other's permission to keep going. But here is what all this wealth, economic and cultural, does not tell you. Because Lagos is not a success story, not a clean city compared to Akwa Ibom State and other states in Nigeria. It is something more complicated, more honest, and more Nigerian than that. And that is exactly what makes it the opposite of every other city in this country. Let me paint you a picture. On one side, you have Banana Island, a man-made peninsula in Lagos, home to approximately 536 plots total, with properties averaging 2.4 billion naira each, roughly $1.5 million at current exchange rates, underground electrical systems, fiber optic internet, a single gated entry point with 24/7 armed security. Real estate values on Banana Island rose 100% in just 3 years. Aliko Dangote lives here. Mike Adenoga lives here. It is, by any global measure, one of the most exclusive addresses in Africa. On the other side, separated by a few kilometers of water and a lifetime of inequality, you have Makoko. Up to 300,000 people live on wooden stilts above the Lagos Lagoon. No roads, no piped water, no sanitation. Everything from food to clean water, fuel, children going to school arrives by canoe. Makoko sits directly beneath the Third Mainland Bridge, one of the longest bridges in Africa, which carries thousands of cars above it every single day. Most of these drivers have never set foot inside Makoko. Many do not even look down. In December 2025, demolition teams backed by Lagos state authorities entered Makoko, citing safety concerns around high-tension electricity lines. Thousands of residents were displaced, belongings were lost to the water, and Coalition Against Demolition forced evictions, land grabbing, and displacement organized protests in January of 2026. The debate over what Makoko is, who it belongs to, and what should replace it is still ongoing as of today. Both Banana Island and Makoko are in Lagos State. Both exist simultaneously right now in the same city. That is not an accident, it is a portrait. And it is a portrait no other Nigerian city can match because no other Nigerian city contains that level of scale at both extremes. Yes, Abuja has wealth districts and poorer ones, like every city, but Abuja does not have this. It does not have a floating community of 300,000 people living meters from one of Africa's most expensive postcodes. Abuja does not contain that level of contradiction within the same skyline. Lagos does, and it always has. If this video told you something you did not know or confirmed something you have always felt, share it, because this story belongs to every Nigerian who has ever been shaped by this city, whether they lived here, left here, or are still on their way. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.